Hey friend, welcome back to the Anchored with Purpose podcast. Today we're continuing our Anchored in Every Area series, 10 life anchors that hold us steady through every season. Today, we're talking about one that runs through everything else, relationships. As women, we carry so many roles and wear so many hats: wife, mom, daughter, friend, coworker, ministry leader, neighbor, and so many more. We've joked before on the podcast that sometimes it feels like we're wearing so many hats that our neck literally hurts from all of the hats piled on top of our heads. And sometimes it feels like we're holding the emotional glue of everyone's life together while quietly falling apart ourselves. But God never meant for our relationships to drain us. He meant them to refine, support, and bless us. So today, let's walk through the relationship anchor and how to stay steady in your most important connections without losing your peace. So in this episode, we're going to talk through some of the different relationships that we have in our lives. We're going to talk about marriage, we're going to talk about parenthood, our friendships, our extended family, and so on. And we're going to kick it off with marriage. Marriage is one of the most sacred relationships we'll ever have, and it's also one of the hardest. Ephesians 5:33 tells us this: each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Now, this verse is not about perfection. It's about mutual love, respect, and surrender to Christ. Statistics tell us that the average couple spends less than 30 minutes of meaningful conversation per week. And that's from the National Marriage Project. 30 minutes a week, less than that. That's crazy. But couples who pray together and talk intentionally are far more likely to report high levels of connection and intimacy. Now, your marriage doesn't need to look like anybody else's. It just needs to be rooted in love, communication, and grace. So I have to tell you, my parents have been married for over 40 years. And I remember growing up, my mom always telling me, marriage is work. It's work. It's not easy, but it can be successful when you work at it. And that really inspires me in my own marriage because let's be honest, it's never easy. Life isn't always easy. There's always something. How many of you have seen that meme out there that said, growing up, my mom said there would always be something? Or when I'd hear other adults talking, it's always something. Well, it's true. There's literally always something going on, whether it's like something going on with the house or life being full with kid schedules or something going on at work. It's always something. And when you can take the time to communicate and to connect, that's what can help you through it. So I can tell you that my marriage certainly isn't perfect, but I can share with you some things that we do to help. So if it were up to me and we had beautiful, clear schedules, we would go on a date night every week. I got to be honest, I love the idea of a date night. In my mind, that sounds so fun. Is that the reality in our lives currently? No, it's not. So I will tell you, while I love that idea, it's not happening here consistently. But what we do try and do is have a little date night on the couch at least once a week. And that means that kids are upstairs, probably playing video games and on screens, but it's date night, so who cares? And we're just watching a show or a movie together. And my mom friends out there who've got kids, you understand, you don't always get to control what's on the TV or the couch in the evenings. So we've had so many times where we've tried to watch something and we've got a kid trying to play VR between the couch and the TV, like completely blocking the view. So I will tell you that right now, that is our date night. We don't spend the money to go out to dinner once a week. We're not that kind of a couple. It does sound fun though. Maybe someday when the kids are out of the house and budgets are a little less tight, but we love watching movies together. And really, looking back when we were dating, that was also like one of our favorite date nights. Now I'm dating myself right here, but we used to go to Blockbuster. Do you guys remember when Blockbuster had those DVDs like in these big baskets in the middle, and they were marked down to like $2.99 a piece or like $5.99 a piece? We would go to Blockbuster, and rather than renting a movie, we would go buy like a stack of DVDs. And guys, it's embarrassing how many DVDs we have in a binder somewhere, but this is what we did, that because streaming wasn't a thing back then. So we would rent DVDs or buy DVDs from Blockbuster, and we would just sit and watch movies together. Because truly, again, I'll be honest, I would rather watch a movie on my own couch than go to the movie theater. Like in my own house, I can snuggle up under my favorite blanket. I can have my own snacks. I can pause the movie if I have to run to the bathroom. I mean, I just love that. So that has been one of our favorite date nights since we were dating. So that is something that we try to continue. And in fact, at the time of this recording, our kids have been away for the week at my parents'. Every summer, they go to my parents' house in Pennsylvania for a week for some family time and cousin time. And so we had said, we're like, oh yeah, we'll go on a date night one day, while the kids are gone. Let me tell you, our date nights consisted of watching movies on the couch together almost every single night, except for one. I did a girls' night with one of my friends from the gym. And then it was funny because it was last night. We were definitely too tired to even try and go out to dinner. And so we had leftovers at home, and I was getting ready to go take my bubble bath. And I said, I could kind of go for ice cream, just thinking I was going to grab some ice cream from the fridge. And Jeff said, how about we go on an ice cream date? And so that's it. That's it, guys. That's what we did. We went out to ice cream, to one of our favorite local ice cream shops for a date. So dating your spouse does not need to be expensive. It does not need to be something where you have to, hire a sitter and get all dressed up, which that is super fun to do. We do that every now and then. We do get dressed up and go out to dinner every now and then. But at this point in our lives, that's just not sustainable. So we have our little stay-at-home date nights. So if going out every week to date your spouse doesn't work for you, think about some other ways you could stay at home and have an at-home date night. Now, next, we're going to talk about parenting, and we're not going to go too far into this because if you listen to the last episode, we covered the family anchor in depth. So I'm not going to spend too long here, but it is worth saying that your kids don't need the perfect parent. They just need you to be present, prayerful, and grace-filled. Proverbs 22:6 tells us this: train up a child the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. You're discipling your kids in the way that you love them, in the way that you apologize, in the way that you pray out loud, in the way that you show up again and again. Let's keep choosing presence over pressure and anchor your parenting in God's love. Okay, next we are going to talk about friendships, and this one is fun. Friendships can be some of the most life-giving relationships, but they can also be some of the most painful when they're absent or broken. So many women tell me that they feel lonely, even while they're surrounded by people. And here's what the research tells us. According to a 2023 report by the Surgeon General, 1 in 2 women report feeling lonely regularly. Guys, that's literally half the women out there. And healthy friendships are directly tied to emotional resilience, mental health, and even longer lifespans. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 says 2 are better than 1. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. So friend, if you're longing for deeper friendships, start by being the friend you want to find. Reach out, invite, be real, show up, and ask God to bring you into connection. So if you haven't read the book Let Them by Mel Robbins yet, I will tell you first, pause this, put that into your Amazon cart and grab it because it's such a good book. But there was a chapter in there that really resonated with me, and it's about making friends as an adult. When you think about it, your friends growing up were usually the friends in your neighborhood or the friends that you went to school with, the friends that were on your soccer team or your cheerleading squad. They were the people that you were around. Friendships do have a lot to do with proximity. But then once you leave the house, everything is different. When you go away to college, you're making new friends. When you move to a new city, it's time to make some new friends so you have friends where you are. And I can tell you, this was an eye opener for me. First, when I first graduated college and moved home, I had one of my best friends still living there, but she had recently gotten married and was about to have a baby. My other really close friend, she was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. I didn't have and then a lot of my other friends that I hung out with on a regular basis were just not there anymore. They all either were still in school or had moved on to different places. So it was a real time of loneliness for me. And then I worked on making some new friends, and then I moved again, and then I moved again. And something I had learned in my role in my previous company, my first company, was that every 18 months I was moved. And so I had a hard time really digging in and putting roots down, to be honest. And so when it came time, when I had stopped working and I was at home with Andrew, I felt so lonely because I didn't really have friends. I had my husband, but he was off at work. I knew I had a neighbor friend, but she worked during the day. So I really didn't have friends to connect with. And I was so thankful when a woman that I had met invited me, hey, why don't we go to the library? There's this story time there. And I said, sure, because I didn't have anything else to do. And I had a baby at home. And I was like, yeah, let's go to baby lap time at the library. That sounds great. And there was this group of women there that I really connected with, and we all had babies the same age. And so every time I went back, I would talk to these women, and they were super inviting and kind and fun. And I formed this connection with them. And I'll tell you that one thing I struggled with was getting too close because I had this fear that it was all going to be ripped out because in the back of my mind, oh, we're not staying. I don't stay anywhere long. We're moving home to Pennsylvania and I'm not going to be here for very long. So I sometimes just wouldn't accept invitations like, no, thank you. No, thanks for the offer. That sounds great, but no thanks. Until one day I had seen them, some of them had gone out to dinner for a birthday and had posted, and I had told Jeff, I was like, oh, I'm a little sad I wasn't invited to that. And he said, well, honey, if you want to be invited to things, you have to start actually accepting the invitations you do get, because they're probably going to stop asking you to do things if you keep saying no. And that stuck with me. And I started saying yes. And I have to tell you, these women, these are my best friends. They're my closest friends here. Our little babies that were in baby lap time together are now all 13. And we spend time together. Now, of course, not as much as we did when the kids were super little and we were all staying home. But it is so nice to know that these women are my closest friends, that I can call them in the drop of a dime. Someone will be here. Or if someone needs help picking up a kid from school, we are the first ones to run and go grab them. Or if someone has an emergency and needs one to, come over and hang out, we are the first, we're the first phone call. And it's so worth it. And I'll tell you that I am so grateful that Jeff had given me that feedback. Like, if you actually want a friend, you have to be a good friend. Like, you have to not just accept the invitations, but you have to be a friend. You have to reciprocate. So that was a great life lesson for me. And another thing I'll say is make time for those friendships too. Make time where you're either going out to coffee or having a girls' night. It's so important to have that time with your friends because as moms, sometimes we just need to have some girl talk and blow off a little steam and just have some time together to relax and be ourselves. Now, next, we're going to talk about extended family just a tiny bit. We did go into this a little bit in the last episode, but I want to just touch on it because extended family relationships can be both beautiful and complicated. So, Exodus 20:12 tells us, honor your father and mother. Now, this verse doesn't mean you become a doormat or that you have to agree with unhealthy patterns. Honor can coexist with boundaries. So, whether it's your parents, in laws, siblings, or adult children, there will be seasons where you need to navigate things prayerfully. And that might mean you need to say no to certain requests to protect your immediate family's peace. It might be choosing love without codependency. And it might be creating space for God to do the healing, not you. Now, I did mention Mel Robbins' book, Let Them, in an earlier segment of this podcast episode, and I'm going to talk about it again because this book was critical in how I handle things with the extended family. Now, in the book, Let Them, Mel talks about, if they say something or they commit to something, but then don't follow through, let them. But then the part that really resonated with me was what comes next. And that's what people sometimes forget. And it's let me. Let me handle this way. Now, we have some members of our extended family who will commit to something and will 90% of the time cancel that plan. And it's become almost a running joke. But I would get really angry when this would happen. I would get so mad and I would say, "Can you believe it? They canceled on us again. That is terrible." But after reading this, I've really, worked on this. And now it's not anger. Now it's just, okay, let me respond this way. I'm now going to respond in a more positive manner, and I'm not going to let it get to me, but I am going to work to protect my peace. And I will tell you this, God can help you love your extended family well, even if it looks different than you imagined. Sometimes this is about managing our own expectations. We have to remember that family and loved ones aren't always going to meet our expectations, and it's up to us to handle how we manage those expectations. Now, in this next part, I want to talk to you about workplace and ministry relationships. So, we're not going to forget about those relationships at work that we've got in our different volunteer ministries that we do and in leadership. These can shape your energy, your self-worth, and your sense of calling. Matthew 5:16 says this, it's one of my favorite guys. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Now, you may not always work in a faith-filled environment, but you can bring a faith-filled presence. Be the one who listens. Be the one who leads with integrity. Be the one who carries the peace. Something that I want you to think about is whether you're going to work or the gym or you're showing up where you volunteer. Will people know by your actions and by the way you talk to them that you're a Christian? Will they know, are your actions and are your words modeling what a Christian should be doing? If so, then that is incredible. And if not, I'm just going to ask you, why not? What can we be doing to really, really model what it means to be a Christian at work, at the gym, in our volunteer work, in our leadership? Because when we are being the light, others are drawn to the light. And I want you to think about this. So, if someone does know that you're a Christian and you're modeling that, how can that open up conversations for you? I'll give you an example. At the gym, one of our trainers wore a shirt one day that said, "Prayer works, tap me on the shoulder to find out how." And I talked to him about that. I said, "Where did you get that shirt?" First of all, because that is awesome. And here's the cool thing. Now, because he wore that shirt, I know that he's Christian. And now we talk about the Bible app every day. And we talk about the verse of the day every day. And he knows now that he can come to me with the Bible app and that we can talk about things. And this is not common gym conversation in my gym. But now it's common for he and I to have these conversations. So I want you to think about, who else can you talk to in your workplace about God? Who else can know you're a Christian? Who could you pray with at work? Now, not every work environment is conducive for this, but think about how you can be the light and open up room for these conversations. Now, I'm going to give you some journal prompts and some reflection questions for you for this anchor. So here you go. Journal prompts. Which relationship in my life feels the most life-giving right now? Number 2, which one feels the most draining or out of alignment? And number 3, how is God inviting me to show up differently in that relationship? Now, here's your reflection questions. Am I approaching my relationships with grace or from exhaustion? Number 2, where do I need boundaries and where do I need to lean in? Number 3, which relationships am I avoiding that God may be asking me to restore? Friend, your relationships will never be perfect, but they can be anchored. Anchored in love, anchored in truth, anchored in grace, anchored in God's guidance, not just for your own effort. Romans 12:18 says, "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." That means that you do your part and trust God with the rest. So whether you're rebuilding trust in your marriage, praying for deeper friendships, or learning to set healthy boundaries with extended family, you are not alone. God is working with you every step of the way. And if you're looking for a crew of like-minded women who want to pursue their faith together on this journey of purpose, join our Anchored with Purpose tribe on Facebook. The link will be in the show notes for you today. And if this episode encouraged you, would you please send it to a friend who's navigating some relational tension right now? Or maybe a woman who's hungry for deeper connection? And don't forget, come and join us in the Anchored with Purpose tribe, where we're learning to build relationships rooted in love and led by faith. Until next time, stay rooted in faith, anchored in grace, confident that God is working in your relationships, and anchored with purpose. We'll see you next time.